Yes. For all the students, if you would like to ask in Bahasa, it's very okay. Then I will ask Jay in English. So don't worry, we are here to make a conversation for what is going on with ChatGPT. So the floor is yours, Jay, please. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here. And it's a great way to kick off the weekend. So, once again, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen here. All right. Okay. All right. So yeah. So before I start, let me just make a quick introduction. I've been with Cactus Global for 2 years. Before Cactus, I used to work with startups for 6 years on everything from advertising technology to video production to hosting virtual conferences. So I'm quite familiar with creating content and disseminating content. And for the past 2 years, I've been working on artificial intelligence and mobile applications, along with the Sustainable Development Goals initiative here at Cactus. Um, and I know Ratna from our work at the SDG Compact Fellows, where we meet every week to discuss how we are going to get Sustainable Development Goals more integrated with education and publication, as well as science communication. So that has been it has taught me a lot over the last 2 years about the needs of researchers, the needs of scientists, as well as how we communicate that research to the public and policymakers. Um, so I will get started, and please feel free to ask any questions that you have. Let me put this into presentation mode here. Sorry about this. Okay. Let me know if you see it.
It's perfect, Jay.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to assume that everyone here knows what the Sustainable Development Goals are, but we can just do a quick review. They were started in 2015, and the main goal was to end poverty, protect the planet, and promote peace by 2030. And there are 17 goals, and within those 17 goals, there's 169 targets. So there is a lot to be done and a lot to be achieved. The good news is on some of the goals, we have made quite a bit of progress, such as poverty and hunger and good health and well-being, as well as quality education. But there are other areas where improvements need to be made and progress needs to be made. And a lot of it was slowed down due to the pandemic, but now activity is picking up. And there's a greater amount of urgency to meet these goals in order to help protect human life, wildlife, as well as biodiversity, and just the overall health of the planet and its peoples. So why did they launch the SDGs? Well, primary reason was to foster collaboration between nations and companies for sustainable development. It was to tackle poverty, and of course, inequality and underlying causes of inequities, as well as just to create a more eco-friendly world. Now it's very important that we meet the SDGs because it's vital for the welfare of people, but also the planet, and all of its wildlife and biodiversity, both on land and in water. As I mentioned, progress is tracked through various indicators, such as the poverty rate, child malnutrition, access to clean water, carbon emissions. So there's a lot of different ways to track how we're doing when it comes to the SDGs. But there are also a lot of areas that we simply cannot track yet. And I think that's really where things like artificial intelligence comes in, and big data and data mining can really help. as I've already mentioned, some goals have seen progress, but there's still a lot of work left to achieve before the 2030 deadline. And certainly COVID-19 did slow a lot of that progress down. It did create a situation where a lot of funding was pulled into areas like public health and research and development of vaccines and other therapies. And that money had to come from somewhere, so it came from other areas such as fighting poverty and hunger, as well as protecting biodiversity and renewable energy. The good news, though, is that we can accelerate progress through actions from government, business, civil societies, and the key thing is by individuals. I think all of us can do our part by doing the little things really well, such as recycling, reducing food waste, trying to use less energy, walking more rather than driving or riding our scooters or motorcycles, as well as just generally being more mindful of reusing materials that we would typically throw out. Are there are there any questions so far, or should I keep going?
Halo. Sampai di sini ada yang mau tanya tentang SDG yang dimulai sejak 2015. Tadi Jay bercerita hambatan, kemudian progres, dan segala macam. Kalau ada yang mau tanya bisa raise hand ya. Lanjut? Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Okay. So universities have a very critical role to play when it comes to sustainable development goals, especially in the areas of conducting research, integrating the SDGs into the curriculum, adopting sustainable practices, engaging with their local communities where they are based and where their students are from, and also forming partnerships with other universities, with industry, with civil society, as well as with governments. So, universities are are a really important piece in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals because a lot of research is done at the university level. A lot of new technologies typically start out at the university level before they get into the hands of industry and become commercialized. So it's really important that you as students, do your part in participating in activities that help your university to meet the Sustainable Development Goals, but also to help your communities, adhere to the Sustainable Development Goals and help achieve those. So universities track progress multiple different ways. They use frameworks like the SDG Accord, there's the Global Reporting Initiative, and also the Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System called STARS. Now, there are a lot of these tracking systems out there. They all have a little bit of differences in what they measure, what data they take in, and the way that they output data. But at the end of the day, it is important that universities are able to track what they're doing, what their students are doing, and then report this data because ultimately all this data rolls up into university rankings and ratings. And this is used by, of course, students to make a decision on where they're going to attend. It's also used by funders to decide what funding is going to be provided to a university. And also by governments to see what areas need more investment at the university level. So it is vital that universities are able to measure their activities and are able to share this with the wider world in order to ensure that people outside of the university understand what they're doing. Sorry about that. Okay. So, as I mentioned, a few years ago, universities started being ranked based on sustainable development goals. And the primary purpose of this is to basically see how the curriculum, how the research, as well as important work going on in the communities are being undertaken by different universities, and how they are ranking against each other, both locally as well as globally. Um, and some of the SDG rankings, available out there are managed by companies like Times Higher Education. Um, they've been doing this for several years now, so they have a pretty good handle on collecting data, but also displaying data. They do have data partnerships with the likes of Elsevier, where they get published research, as well as R&D and patent information from Elsevier in order to develop their rankings, along with what's being submitted by the universities themselves. There's also the UI Green Metric World University Rankings, which assesses based on environmental sustainability policies and practices of universities. And as you can see here, I was able to find the ranking for Telecom University. And its rank in 2022 was 77 in the Asia region. And that's really great considering how many universities there are in Asia. And the other ranking, and this is fairly new, is the QS Sustainability Rankings, and those are focused on social and environmental sustainability performance. And again, they also utilize Elsevier data for their rankings. And the primary goal of this is the rankings incentivize universities to prioritize sustainable development. It also allows prospective students and academics to make informed decisions based on their personal values and priorities. And they can decide, do I want to go to Telecom University, or do I want to go to Rutgers University, or depending on how those universities align with their personal values and priorities. All right. May I ask if there's any questions at this point?
Okay. Ada yang mau tanya? Ini ada di chat, izin off-cam jaringan tidak stabil. This is from Ahmad Zay. SDGs was initiated since 2015. But why does it seem that university just started to be more aware recently? For instance, aligning their activities, targets, and KPIs with SDG in their strategic plan. Can you just ask?
Yes, that's a very good question, and I believe that more universities are finally becoming aware or taking action on the SDGs because of the rankings of universities by SDGs. As we as we all know, university rankings determine a lot of things, such as student enrollment, also funding from government, and other non-government organizations and donors. It also determines which grants you are going to win and which grants you're not going to win. So as universities are being measured by SDGs, now universities are aligning with SDGs. I think there's also the simple fact that US students are more aware of SDGs, and students are demanding that universities get more equitable, that they connect more with their communities, that they reduce waste and use renewable energy. So the students themselves are also pressuring universities to align with the SDGs, which is which is a fantastic development. And we certainly need universities to take more action. And it's great to see that students are really pushing for action at the ground level, and really demanding that there be change in their communities.
Jay, there's another question, interesting question from Rino. Hi, Rino. I just know that SDGs start from college. Do you want to ask, Rino?
Yeah, I can ask about that. Why SDG always come from college? I know SDG is I start from my college here, but not in elementary school. I see in Indonesia in elementary school, children not to know to didn't know about SDG. That's why SDG always start from a people in the college, not in the kindergarten or elementary school. Thank you.
Right, right. No, that is a very good question, and uh, you know, I think Ratna will agree that our SDG Fellows group is, you know, right now we are very much focused at the college level, but there is a lot of work going on to help elementary students understand what SDGs are. So the United Nations, along with the International Publishers Association and a couple other publisher associations around the world, have started a SDG books program where they have selected certain books that align with specific SDGs, and they're making those available in multiple different languages in order to help educate younger children about the Sustainable Development Goals. But as I said a little bit earlier, it's very important that universities and students are more involved with their with their communities, uh, because they can certainly help educate their communities about, for instance, reducing food waste, reducing plastic waste, protecting the environment, taking healthy actions like walking more, exercising, eating healthy. So those are really important things as well. Besides just building SDGs into education, it's also important that universities and students are out there in their communities, working with civil society to help improve the lives of everyday people.
Can I just add Jay to Rino ya? Rino, I just talk in bahasa ya Jay. It's okay. Okay.
Sure.
Jadi gini kata Jay itu, kalau kita dalam konteks perguruan tinggi itu dampaknya akan lebih kerasa kepada masyarakat dan komunitas gitu ya. Berbeda kalau kita bicara SDG kepada PAUD, TK, SD, itu lebih kepada pengenalan saja. Jadi untuk sekarang ini karena kami juga dalam higher education di dalam satu kelompok higher education institution, diharapkan dampaknya itu dari kalian-kalian ini akan lebih kerasa kepada masyarakat. Gitu kira-kira Rino ya. Jadi kelihatan langsung. Jadi kita mengukur impact sekarang dengan adanya university ranking itu, supaya nanti kedepannya bisa lebih cepat. Bukan berarti tidak penting untuk PAUD dan TK, bukan. Tetapi kita bicara impact-nya. Kira-kira seperti itu ya, dampaknya ya Rino ya.
Iya Bu, siap.
Ya. Please continue, Jay.
Sure. Thank you for the questions. Okay. So, and I know, I know while we are here for ChatGPT, thank you for letting me at least cover the Sustainable Development Goals quickly. But now, let's get to the fun stuff. So ChatGPT was launched late last year, and it has taken on a life of its own. I mean, we hear about it in the news media. We read about it on Twitter and LinkedIn. And people are having all sorts of running all sorts of tests with it and trying to see what sort of new fun things it can generate based on the data that it has been fed, as well as to see where it tends to go wrong, and where improvements need to be made. So in general, ChatGPT is an advanced AI language model. It was created by an organization called OpenAI, and it was trained on a massive corpus of text data from the internet. So the way they did this is they just basically scraped millions upon millions of websites that were open and that content wasn't secured or protected. and they basically consumed hundreds of billions of parameters in order to build this language model, which is called a large language model. It's capable. The really interesting thing about ChatGPT that didn't exist before with other models was that it is capable of generating human-like responses to text-based prompts. And it sounds very, when you read it, it certainly sounds like a human would have written it. It communicates very similarly to how a human would communicate. And it is it is extremely believable if you don't know what the answer is. You would truly believe that what ChatGPT is saying is actually the fact. And the way it does is it uses deep learning to analyze patterns and structures of language. So it looks at relationships between different words, different statements, and then it's able to bring those together to answer a question. So it's quite different from, let's say, doing a Google search where you ask a question in Google search and it returns a bunch of links for you and says, oh, these might have the answers you're looking for. With ChatGPT, you ask a question and it will go fetch that information for you. So you don't actually have to go to the website to read what it says. It will actually extract that content and give you an answer. Some of the applications for this are, of course, customer service chatbots, language translation, creative writing. Those are some of the use cases that already exist and have been tested by both people and companies. And it is a powerful tool for businesses and individuals alike. So I will share with you. I use ChatGPT, and I've used it for the last couple of months. And what I do is I will write my emails like I typically would. I'll put in all the information I need to. Then I will go to ChatGPT and then I will ask it, please write this in a more professional tone, or please write it in a formal tone, or write it in an informal tone. Or what I will do is I will ask it, I have way too many words here in my email. Can you shorten it for me? And then based on based on its feedback, I'll compare it to what I've written, and I'll look at what it's what it's provided, and then I will edit my original writing to integrate or to include some of the stuff that ChatGPT has told me that would make better sense in my email. So that's just one of the ways that I utilize it currently. And of course, it is going to play an increasingly important role in our lives. So ChatGPT is not the only game in town. Of course, there is Bard from Google. Facebook had the Galactica model, and it seems like their newest model just leaked yesterday or the day before. Amazon is working with, I believe, Hugging Face in order to create its model or utilize the Hugging Face model. So there is a lot of competition out there in this space. It just happens so that ChatGPT was the first one out the gate that actually seemed to work better than any of the other ones that came before it. Any questions so far?
Yes, Jay, I saw raise hand from Rina. Tapi raise hand-nya udah turun. Ada Ibu Rina dari Ya, oke. You mau tanya? Silakan.
Mungkin ini jadi agak mundur ke belakang, tadi saya nggak sempat nanya. Saya dalam bahasa ya, Bu Ratna.
Iya.
Jadi salah satu goals dari 17 goals untuk SDG adalah kesetaraan gender ya, gender equality. Nah, saat ini kan sedang masif terjadi perkembangan kesetaraan gender ya, yang mengarahnya tuh kepada LGBT. Dalam hal ini SDG ini mengarah kemana gitu loh, kesetaraan gendernya. Dan ini sudah masif juga masuk ke campaign tentang kesetaraan gender ini yang mengarah ke LGBT sudah masuk ke usia sekolah gitu loh. Bahkan di universitas-universitas ternama. Nah, itu tadi pertanyaannya Bu Ratna. SDG dalam hal apa sih goalsnya, salah satunya adalah kesetaraan gender itu ke arah mana? Itu aja.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Rina. If we are talking about the SDG, there is one of the SDG is gender equality. So Ibu Rina was asking about how the LGBT put into this one of this SDG. Do you know about it, Jay?
Unfortunately, it's not an area of expertise for me. But what I can certainly do is, and Ratna, maybe what we can do is maybe find out, possibly from the other fellows in the group. Maybe they can point us in the right direction, and then we can share that information, with the folks on this call.
Ya, Bu Rina. Nanti kami punya event tanggal what is our event, Jay? Is it for the researcher on April, right?
Yes, on April 5th.
On April 5th, Ibu Rina, we have SDG Compact Fellows for webinar, April 5th. And then after this event, we will post the link, ya Jay, ya. So that
Yes,
we will cover up all the SDG. Kira-kira gitu ya Bu Rina ya.
Noted, Bu Ratna, terima kasih.
Thank you. Continue, Jay. But there's another question here.
Sure.
Do you think the existence of ChatGPT and other kinds of AI would hinder the SDG progress, especially for education?
I think there is a good side to it, but also a bad side to things like ChatGPT, and we need to be aware of both. So the good things I see with ChatGPT is that it can help speed up the dissemination and understanding of content. So one of the ways that you can utilize ChatGPT is, for instance, you can take an abstract or or a text from a paper that potentially you don't understand, and you can ask it to summarize it for you, or to put it into into less technical language or less scientific language, and it will do that, and it does it quite well, and it does make complex topics more understandable, and it can also do translation, and I believe it can really help speed up communication and understanding of scientific research, which is which is I think a really large issue, even with open access becoming the primary publishing model. It it is one thing to publish research, but what's needed is to communicate that research to the public, to the policymakers, to students. And there are large bottlenecks there, in the sense that it takes a lot of time, it takes expertise, and it takes money to do all those things. But I do believe with things like ChatGPT, individuals can now do those things for themselves, or organizations or universities can do that and then communicate that content to their communities. So that's the good side. There is, on the other side, there are some things that we need to look out for, and it's simply the fact that ChatGPT doesn't get everything right, and that there are bad actors out there who could use technology like ChatGPT to generate fake news, fake content, and fuel conspiracy theories about everything from climate change to vaccines causing autism, to the COVID-19 pandemic and the COVID-19 vaccines. So we also have to be very careful about that and be able to spot those things. But overall, I do believe technologies like ChatGPT and AI can really help us in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals.
Jay,
Yes.
I think there is another question here.
Sure.
Have you considered the risk of using ChatGPT in the future? What are the possible negative in the future? I think it's already answered, yeah. In Indonesia, people use ChatGPT to do their college assignments, even to write their thesis. Is it not a problem for the development of education? Jay, you want to add for that?
Yes. So I think that's always a concern. And you know, in all honesty, when I was in college many years ago, the internet was just becoming a thing, and you know, it was being adopted more widely. And I think at that time, people were having the same concerns about the internet. And you know, I think those concerns were, well, if students have availability to all this content and all these things that other people are generating, how are they going to create their own content? How are they going to learn? How are they going to think for themselves? I think we face the same issue with development of mobile phones and social media. And it's certainly the same issues with things like ChatGPT. And you know, as I said, I do think there are a few out there who will abuse this technology, but you know, but I do believe a vast majority of students are, are honest and are hardworking, and they will, they will do their own work. They will, read for themselves, and they will do their own research and write their own materials. But I think with ChatGPT, what it can do is possibly speed up that process of doing research, of writing, of helping write papers on on basically making sure that you're able to access a lot of content which you may not have been able to access in the past, and different ways of thinking that may have been limited in the past. So I do, I do believe utilizing ChatGPT for your coursework, for your schoolwork. I don't think it's a bad thing. But I think students need to be taught how to work with the technology versus being afraid of it and banning it. Because in all honesty, we can ban a lot of things, but if people really want it, they will find a way to get to it. So banning things never works. But what would be better is to teach students how to harness things like ChatGPT to do better work, to learn more things, and then to apply those to their daily life, rather than to tell them that you can't use it.
Ya, begitu ya. Saya tambahkan sedikit. Beberapa hari yang lalu, Kompas Gramedia juga membuat suatu webinar tentang bagaimana sebetulnya kuncinya adalah di SDM, sama seperti pisau ya. Setelah peradaban zaman dulu, kita bisa mengetahui bahwa manusia memotong dengan batu, kemudian dengan beragam alat, kemudian muncullah pisau, lalu pisau itu digunakan untuk mempercepat proses. Jadi ChatGPT itu adalah untuk mempercepat proses kepada kita yang mau membuat research. Tadinya kita harus membuka 3 buku sekaligus, menghabiskan waktu. Kita menanyakan ke ChatGPT, apa nih definisi dari corporate entrepreneurship? Kita akan dengan cepat mendapatkan, kira-kira seperti itu ya. Jadi yang dijadikan kesimpulan dari webinar Kompas kemarin itu adalah bagaimana kita berdansa dengan ChatGPT, how to dance with ChatGPT, how to live harmony with the technology, something like that ya. Pak Yoyo Budianto mau tanya? Profesional 20?
Ya Bu, baik Bu.
Silakan.
Thanks for allowing me here to give a question. I think ChatGPT is a hot topic right now, and I use ChatGPT for daily basis. I use it for like summarizing articles, writing articles, and also coding. I learned Python coding, and ChatGPT will help me a lot. And I want to ask you a question. how ChatGPT will disrupt a political landscape, especially in Indonesia? Thank you.
Yes,
I will-
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you for the question. I'm not very familiar with the political landscape in Indonesia, but I can tell you from what is going on in America. It's you know, I do believe that there are dangers when it comes to mixing politics and technology, especially as we saw with our last couple of elections here from 2016 and 2020, with the utilization of social media to create divisions within the country, and to also spread disinformation and misinformation. So, you know, certainly technology can be used both for good and bad. It really depends on who, it really depends on people, on how they want to use it. The technology itself isn't good or bad. It's really the application of it. Um, um, you know, so, you know, if you've been on social media, there are some amazing things on there. There are great people on there sharing, you know, a lot of very interesting content, and, you know, doing amazing work. But then you also have, you know, people who are utilizing it to spread conspiracies or to create deep fakes and fake content, and to create controversy. So I think, you know, I think with ChatGPT, you know, what is also vital is not only teaching people how to use it properly, but to also detect when to be able to figure out if something is actually fake news or not, or to evaluate the source that it's coming from. You know, is it a trusted source? Is it a, you know, is it propaganda from another government that's trying to, you know, undermine your country? Or you know, or is it fake news that's being created by a third party somewhere else? Or, you know, that phone call that you're getting is, or that email that you just got, is that, you know, is that phishing for information, or is that a scam? So I think along with teaching people how to use things like ChatGPT, it's also very important to, you know, to teach them how to detect when bad actors are utilizing it for the wrong things. Yeah, so I mean, I think it can certainly have a very, it could have an extremely good effect on politics and society, but at the same time, if we're not careful, it can also have a negative consequences.
Bisa ya Pak Yoyo ya?
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Sama kayak pisau aja. Pisau itu bisa dibuat potong sayur. Tapi bisa juga buat potong yang lain kan gitu ya. Jadi bagaimana orangnya? The role of the human being ya. Saya mau jawab, ini ada beberapa pertanyaan dari Pak Hendra ya. Funding of the research, opportunity for the funding and research. I think we have the community of practice ya Jay in SDG Compact Fellows, and we will continue to open it for the student and for the community ya Jay, but it's all ongoing ya.
Yes, I do. I do believe we're looking at expanding that and yeah, bringing in, you know, students into, you know, into the fellows group itself. But you know, yeah. So I think, you know, I definitely think that especially students are, you know, really vital in pushing the SDGs forward. But I do think students are also vital when it comes to using technology responsibly, especially things like ChatGPT. And you know, personally, you know, I'm of the belief that you know, that we can use things like ChatGPT in a responsible way, that we can help improve people's understanding and lives by communicating scientific and research content, which has traditionally been, you know, only been accessible to experts for many years. But I think things like ChatGPT can really help us communicate that to the wider public, and to also communicate it to policymakers and politicians in order to help them understand important important areas that they need to address.
Okay. Yeah. Kita lanjutkan dulu dengan Jay ya. Let's continue Jay, because this is some of the question about the SDG. Later on we can answer. Yes,
Yep.
please continue.
Yes. Yep. So so as I was saying, how does ChatGPT help with SDGs? And certainly ChatGPT can help by helping promote sustainability by generating text-based content. And it can do that, of course, in English and various other languages. It can help you, bring together information from various different sources and pull it together extremely quickly and be able to communicate that out through social media or print or other methods. It can provide information on sustainable practices. So you can certainly ask it, can you tell me what this university is doing, or can you tell me how this university is ranked on THE's sustainability rankings? You can ask, what is this project in my community, or what is this project that our prime minister or our president has initiated, and so it can certainly help with with educating people about sustainable practices. We can also integrate it into chatbots to promote sustainable behavior. I could potentially see like ChatGPT integrated into maybe into social media. And if somebody has questions about how do I recycle my computer, it can say, oh, there's a recycling center near you where they will take your computer for you, and they will recycle it responsibly. Or you can ask it, well, I have this, I have this stuff that I was going to throw out, but is there a place where I can go and donate it? And they can say, yes, there is a place where you can go donate your, donate your clothes or donate your technology that you don't use anymore, so other people can utilize it. Or it can help promote healthy actions. So it can encourage people to walk more or to eat healthier, because you can ask it, oh, hey, I love this dish at my favorite fast food restaurant, but how many calories does it have? Or what sort of ingredients do they put in this food that I love to eat? And so you can make better informed decisions about what you're eating and how you're living your life. It can certainly help generate persuasive messages. So like little nudges like, oh, hey, you should go for a walk. It's a beautiful day outside. Or rather than eating that hamburger, you should eat a salad, or things of that nature. So it can certainly help nudge little positive actions that can help us achieve the SDGs. It can, of course, analyze public perceptions to inform communication strategies. So this is a really interesting area, because as I said, you could write your own content. Then you can go to ChatGPT and you can say, okay, I want to communicate this to a professional audience, or I want to communicate this to elementary school children. Can you put it in language that they would understand? Or I want to communicate this to other scientists and researchers. Can you help me fine tune my language for that? Or very simply, you could ask it, can you help me make this more funnier and relatable? And it'll help you try to try to make it a little bit more more approachable, and maybe make your content a little bit funnier so it's easier to communicate to people. So those are some of the things. And of course, it can help you create content that illustrates the impact of sustainable development. So there are some very good uses for ChatGPT and SDGs. And I'm personally not sure if you are using it for those things, but it would be great to see some examples as you use ChatGPT more and more for SDGs, within your communities and within your university. All right. Again, as we discussed earlier, it is important with any technology that we use it with caution. There are limitations to technologies like ChatGPT. Even though they're extremely advanced, it does have its own set of issues and concerns. It can certainly generate biased or inappropriate responses due to biases in the training data or the prompts provided. So the great thing about ChatGPT is that it consumed a lot of content. The bad thing about ChatGPT is it consumed a lot of content in the sense that there was really no thought put in when they were creating this model of filtering out content that was biased, racist, or just flat out wrong, because it consumed content from all sorts of sources, not just trusted sources. It's the old adage of garbage in, garbage out. So with data, it depends on the cleaner and the better the data that you input, the better and cleaner content that you'll get on the output. But if you're not controlling the input, you can't control the output. And that's where ChatGPT can go wrong sometimes. It also lacks common reasoning abilities. So it will, sometimes you'll ask it to, give you, to create some content, but then it'll spit out things that just don't make any sense to a person when they read it, because it can't think like a person. It can't create, excuse me, it can't create, it doesn't, it can't express sympathy or empathy. It can't make it relatable to people, because it's, at the end of the day, it's not a human being, it's a machine. And I do believe that's where people have a really good opportunity, is while there might be fear of, oh my God, ChatGPT is going to take my job. I think where people should focus is, how can I use ChatGPT to do my job better? How can I use ChatGPT to become more productive and more efficient? And then also, how can I, as a human being, take the content that ChatGPT is writing and make it more relatable, make it, build empathy and sympathy into it, put feelings into it, and put my own creative thought into it to make it better. So definitely, it may also not, it certainly doesn't understand context of a conversation. And context is really important. It's the difference between me talking to you here by video and then me doing this whole presentation by text. If I did it by text, you would miss a lot of the context that is offered by my facial expressions and my voice. So context is very important. Yeah, the model also requires a lot of data and a lot of processing power. So there is a negative effect, or there is a large impact on how much energy it uses. If we have, right now there are a lot of people using it, but what if this rolled out to hundreds of millions or billions of people using it all at the same time? What sort of computing power would we need? How much energy would it use? And now we look at ChatGPT is just one model. What if there were 100 models like this out there, utilizing the same amount of energy? So that's really important. And of course, there's the potential for misuse of the technology, such as creation of deep fake texts, deep fake videos, and chatbots to spread disinformation. And so, all in all, it's very important to recognize the limitations of ChatGPT and similar technologies, and to make sure that we utilize them responsibly, and that we teach ourselves, teach students, and teach the wider community on responsible use of these technologies. I do see there are some raised hands, so
Yeah.
yeah. So if you'd like, I can try answering their questions.
Ya, Pak Periadi mau langsung? Masih di mute?
Sorry.
Ya,
Yeah.
silakan.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Ibu Ratna. Yeah. Yeah. This is a great topic. Yeah, Jay. And to be honest, this is I think for me, it's a new insight for me, and I believe also most of our participants in here also it's a new insight, and we do believe that the chat GPT is is the new tool, yeah, in helping us in the research, yeah, Jay. So I have several questions, yeah, Jay. The first
Sure.
one, as you mentioned that ChatGPT can utilize here to get any information, knowledge, yeah, whatever information that we want to know, get, yeah, from the ChatGPT, right? And my question is how we guarantee that the ensure that the chat GPT delivered to us are correct, yeah, and appropriate, yeah. I mean, yeah. So any I don't know, maybe any regulation that we are stick on, I don't know exactly. The second one, yeah, I think that the chat GPT, I think it's become a new competitor, yeah, for Google, yeah. So I think Google right now, they assume that chat GPT will be their competitor, yeah. And I think they already prepare the strategy how to compete with chat GPT in the future. So the second one is how you I mean how you maintain or you establish the strategy for the chat GPT in the future. So Google has been in the world as the I mean a source of become a source of information has been a long time, right? So chat GPT is a new, so I believe the company already strategize, yeah, how to compete there and sustain, yeah, in the future. And the third one, Jay, I read that we can subscribe with free of charge and paid, yeah. So what exactly the difference in between the paid and free of charge? So maybe any limitation from the information we want to get, or I don't know. So yeah, so that's my question, Jay. And sorry, I'm late to join. Maybe you have mentioned it before early, Ibu Arna. Thank you. Yeah.
No, all very good questions. So the first one, I believe that as I've stated before, I think it's very important to use ChatGPT responsibly. So the first thing is that just like anything else, like as a student in a class would ask a professor, you need to know the question to ask in order to get the information you need. So it's very important to ask the right questions. It's very important to have the right prompts. So the more specific you are with your prompts, the better the output that ChatGPT will give you. Second thing is, if you're using it for things like research, always ask it for references. So when you put your prompt in, you can say, oh, please tell me about how Indonesia ranks when it comes to recycling plastics. And it will pull that information for you. But what you should also ask it is, please provide references or with references. And then what it will do is if it has references, it'll provide those to you and it'll tell you that this is where basically I got the information from, or it'll give you citations. So then you can go back and check those, check the source or the citation to make sure that it is actually, you know, a source that exists, that it's an author that exists, because ChatGPT has a way of, for lack of a better word, lying to you. So if it doesn't know something, it will try to make it up. It will try to make up citations or sources. So one thing is to ask the right prompts or ask the right questions. The other thing is to ask it for references. And the third thing is to always check those references and make sure that they actually exist and that it's pulling the information that it's supposed to be pulling and not just providing you something that it thinks will make you happy and feel like it has answered your question. The second piece when it comes to Google and ChatGPT, I think Google's been working in this area for many years as well and trying to create large language models. They've even created their own chatbots, but I do believe that internally they've made decisions in the past to pause or stop projects along this area, but now they are pushing ahead with things like Bard in order to compete with ChatGPT and Microsoft's Bing search engine. Where I believe Google has a big advantage over someone like Bing or even OpenAI is that they have literally billions of users and they have trillions of data points from those users. So they understand their users really well. They understand, what makes their users tick, what type of information they're looking for. And so they already have a very good starting point when it comes to the user data and the user behavior information. And now they couple it with a large language model. I personally don't believe that Microsoft's Bing search engine or OpenAI are going to topple Google. I do think Google's going to adapt, and that ChatGPT window of opportunity may be coming to a close, especially as Facebook releases a new model and Amazon and Hugging Face are doing work together, and there are going to be competing models from places like China and Japan and the UK, India, even Indonesia. So I think that window of opportunity for ChatGPT might be closing very rapidly. And I personally don't believe that Google is that OpenAI or ChatGPT is a big threat to Google. I think the bigger threat to Google is, as more and more countries pass privacy laws and allowing users to control how their information is collected and used, that is a greater danger to Google than ChatGPT is. And as far as your last question about ChatGPT being free versus paid, I personally haven't looked into it in greater detail, but I believe the main difference, I think, is how many prompts you can ask, if you can use ChatGPT for like bulk prompts, and also the response time. So I think if you have a paid account, you get more computing power and you get faster response times than you do if you use the free service. But personally, I've been using the free service and it works perfectly well. And I think the paid service might be for more data intensive work, or for organizations that need to process large amounts of data.
Jay,
Yes.
how about we try the question from Ibu Rina about the issue of LGBT to SDG from ChatGPT? We posed a good question. Can we get a good answer?
I'm not sure. I think we can certainly try it, and Yeah, so I mean, if they're, if you do want to share that question with me or how you want that question written up, when we can certainly run it. And maybe what we can do is we can ask different variations of that question, and then I can, I can provide that information back to you, and you can share it with the students. Oop. Hello, are we still connected?
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah. Can we continue? I just want to know. Perhaps we can share for the students the process of ChatGPT. How do we post a good question to get the answer, and how do we get the reference so that they get the general overview of this ChatGPT, for them to get the insight to do their thesis writing.
Yep. Yeah. Let me make a note, and then what I can do is I can see if I can find some resources and share them with you.
Yeah. Ada yang mau tanya lagi? Langsung?
Okay. Do you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so I believe we were talking about why it's important to check your content. So there have been quite a few developments since ChatGPT came out in order to analyze and detect content that has been generated by AI and ChatGPT-like services. So there is the GPT-0, which works by analyzing a piece of text and determining if there's a high or low indication that a bot wrote it. OpenAI is making its own text classifier, but again, it's not 100% accurate, and it can make mistakes like any artificial intelligence system can make. And Turnitin also has software to detect if a student has used an AI chatbot, such as ChatGPT in their essay. So as we're developing this really cool technology to create content and to enhance content, we are also developing technology to detect the content created by things like ChatGPT or Bard or Hugging Face or any of these things. So again, it's I would never say you can rely on these things 100%. It's still about using these technologies responsibly and checking your sources. So don't ever trust it 100%. Use it to verify, but then also verify by yourself as well, by actually looking at the original source of that content. Okay. Any questions so far?
There is a question for, in your opinion, does ChatGPT help in the implementation of SDGs, or it's a problem in the implementation of SDGs goal?
I would say it depends on what goals you're focusing in on, but I do believe things like ChatGPT will help with achieving SDGs, especially in the space where it can help communicate the research to local communities, to help speed up the translation and the communication of content. Because I think I think the big challenge is that a lot of research is still published in English, and while many people, or at least many people may be able to read English, it's not a native language for a vast number of people around the world. So things like ChatGPT can help quickly summarize content and then translate it into local languages. So students, members of civil society organizations, activists, whoever it might be, governments, can quickly take information that was inaccessible to most people because of the language it was written in, or because it was too scientific or too jargony. They can help simplify it and then communicate it more easily to their constituents or to their local communities. So I think it can certainly help with implementing sustainable development, in helping us achieve sustainable development, and then communicate all the research behind sustainable development more easily and quickly.
Ya, gitu ya. Jadi I will explain in bahasa ya, Jay.
Sure.
Karena SDG ini sudah ada dalam peraturan presiden ya, sekaligus menjawab Pak Nur Sahadati Amir ya. Government policy itu masuk dalam peraturan presiden nomor 111 tahun 2022. Jadi bukan lagi pelaksanaan SDGs, tetapi percepatan SDGs. Sudah masuk di dalam dokumen Bappenas, sehingga ketika kita mau membuat riset tentang SDGs, kita tidak perlu lagi membuka banyak referensi. Tinggal cari aja ChatGPT itu, apalagi kita English language itu is not our mother language ya. So that easy for us to save our time gitu ya. Kita menghemat waktu, kita mendapatkan langsung seharinya karena dia mengcompile dari banyak data. Kira-kira itu yang mau kita bagikan pada malam ini ya. Jadi ChatGPT itu adalah sebagai mesin pencari selain Google ya, Google juga dia hanya menyajikan dokumen, tapi ini lebih kepada sarinya ya, kira-kira gitu ya untuk Pak Nur Sahadati ya. Jadi kalau mau dikaitkan dengan kebijakan pemerintah sudah ada dari tahun 2000 sejak SDG itu sudah ada. Dan Indonesia kalau mau melihat masuklah ke webnya Bappenas. Di situ sudah ada dashboard, di situ sudah ada laporan, dan di situ juga sudah ada jurnalnya juga, kira-kira seperti itu ya. Nah, dengan hadirnya ChatGPT ini, itu akan mempermudah kita untuk mendapatkan intisari dari percakapan mengenai SDG itu sendiri, kira-kira seperti itu. Oke, Jay, continue.
Okay, so well, one of the good things about my job is I get to work on implementing AI solutions for various things, and one of the areas is sustainable development goals. And at Cactus, we have developed an app called Our Discovery, which is free to use, and you can download it if you have Android or iPhone. You can download it and use it. There's no cost to it for you as a user. There's also no advertising, and it allows you to register and tell it what topics you're interested in, and then it will match relevant articles that are published to your interest or to the topic that you're interested in, and it'll keep you updated on a daily basis. And one of the things we've developed using using that service is our SDG collection, and as far as I know, it is the only collection of published content that is classified by SDG goals, that is gathered from many different publishers and thousands of journals. So we're really happy that we're able to do this and provide this collection for free to anyone who wants to utilize it to keep up with SDG research. I also get the pleasure of working with a publisher like Taylor and Francis to help them develop their own SDG collection using our AI technology to organize their journal content and their book content. And again, you can go to that link, and a lot of the content is available for free. And then I also work with OECD, which is a non-governmental organization or cross-governmental organization, and we help them organize all their content according to the SDGs as well. So definitely, I think there's a lot of application for artificial intelligence when it comes to SDGs, because it is able to organize content very quickly, very efficiently, and then help users discover content and also access content in better ways. And then there are other organizations that do provide their own sustainable development platforms, such as Science Open, and also the Relics, which is Elsevier's SDG Resource Center. And there are many more examples like this. And we can I can certainly share those with you, and I can also share with you the International Publisher Association. They have a SDG dashboard where their members feature their SDG projects and content. So I think that's a really great resource as well. Any questions?
Ada pertanyaan? Jay barusan memberikan application of AI for SDGs. I already shared to the students, Jay, from your presentation. So they will use it for their own thesis writing. Please continue. Maybe there are 2 more slides, yeah?
Yes. So I think with things like open access, which allows for free access to information, or ChatGPT, which generates really interesting content and really easily accessible content. It's also very important that we are communicating that information to the public, to policymakers, in order to help achieve the SDGs. And so I think science communication is really a very vital, important for SDGs, because it's one thing to just publish something and put it out there and hope that somebody finds it and uses it. And it's another thing to say, you know what, I'm going to publish this open access, but then I'm going to create an infographic or a graphical abstract or a plain language summary. So now you don't have to be a scientist or a researcher to understand it. You could be somebody in the general public who's interested in, on how to treat diabetes, or how to treat malnutrition, or to fight tropical diseases like malaria and cholera. So it's really important that we also focus in on science communication and how to communicate all this great research to the general public, because it can help raise awareness of issues. It can certainly improve understanding. It can foster innovation. It also builds capacity. So if people understand better about how to treat a disease, or how to live healthier, or how to use less energy, and how to create less waste, they will work together in their community to help achieve those things. It also promotes accountability, because if you know what you're looking for, and if you know where to look, then you can hold people accountable, especially people in power and people who are making decisions, for you and for your community. The benefits of science communication, of course, you can mobilize public support, you can inform and impact decision making. You can certainly create solutions together as a community, both locally and globally. And it can lead to a more sustainable and equitable future. So, it's important that while we look to do a lot of great things with AI and open access, that we are also focused on communicating all that great research to the people who are actually impacted by things like climate change, and COVID-19, and vaccine hesitancy, and things of that nature. May I ask if there are any questions at this point?
I think we already 8 p.m. here.
Okay.
So we better to finish the conversation because there's no more questions. This is the last slide, yeah, Jay?
Yes, that's the last slide. Yep. So, while science communication is important, it's also it's also very challenging for a lot of folks, especially researchers who are very good at doing research and understanding the science. Many of them are not very good with creating visuals that get people to read their content or to click on their content or download their content. So at Cactus, we actually partnered with a company called Mind the Graph. We acquired it last year, but what it allows researchers, scientists, students, whoever it might be, to do is it's a do-it-yourself science communication platform where you can go in and it will help you design, let's say, slides or a poster, or a infographic or a graphical abstract, and it'll lay out the design for you. And then all you do is select images from their gallery of over 70,000 images or illustrations. You can also request your own illustrations. But then all you really need to do is bring your data and information, put it into the right place, and it generates really professional looking content for you, and then allows you to use that content to communicate your message. And so it's becoming, this area of making research more visual and more accessible is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, because a lot of publishers, a lot of journals, a lot of societies are starting to ask authors to provide their content or to provide visuals along with their content to help communicate their message to a wider audience. And funders are also requiring this. And of course, the public wants to see a lot of this complex scientific information in easy to understand and easy to digest formats, like visual abstracts, for instance. Yeah, so that's it for my presentation. I appreciate the time to talk with you, and if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Ya, jadi Bapak Ibu, Teteh, Akang, Mbak Mas, ini sebagai terakhir DIY is do it yourself, right, Jay? DIY.
Yes.
So,
yep, do it yourself.
Jadi kalau saya misalnya agak gagap gitu ya membuat grafik presentasi, tetapi dengan adanya ini saya bisa akan langsung bikin sendiri, kan sekarang tuh juga banyak ya bikin poster, bikin apa, tinggal kita belajar sendiri mana warna dan segala macam. Jadi teknologi akan memudahkan kita selama kita mau belajar dan memanfaatkan semua fitur-fitur ya. Lagi-lagi kita harus belajar sendiri dan memahami karena kitalah yang berada di belakang kemudi. Ibu Ajeng, terima kasih. Nggak kerasa kita sudah 20.04. Jay, I would like to share our video for the student. Is it okay for you?
Yes.
The Compact Fellows?
Yes.
Okay. Can you stop the screen? I will continue my screen. So, Bu Ajeng, give me 4 minutes ya.
Boleh, mangga Ibu, silakan.
Ya, saya akan membuat share videonya ya untuk bagaimana saya dan Jay bersahabat dimulai dari SDG Compact Fellows. Silakan ya, ini ya.
Cooperation with the International Publishers Association and the SDG Publishers Compact, the Higher Education Sustainability Initiative presents the Sustainable Development Goals Publishers Compact Fellows.
We started off as a group of knowing that 150 signatories of crimes that changes the publishers. As a group of publishers, academics, and practitioners, the first task was to address our strategy for improving the quality of SDG-related content in higher education for our work as SDG plans.
The SDG Publishers Compact was launched by the International Publishers Association and the United Nations in 2020. SE established the SDG Publishers Compact Fellows to act on the goals and intentions of the compact.
The 17 SDGs are broad and ambitious. Each goal is interlinked, requiring progress to be made across several goals at the same time. It's why the last goal, SDG 17, is dedicated towards climate change. The academic sector has recognized that partnerships, projects, and initiatives from all parts of academia are needed, especially in higher education.
Publishers, librarians, and academic engagement efforts to form much needed working groups to address ways in which the signatories could act.
We first wanted to integrate the SDGs into educational materials and research. The academic societies and textbooks group are developing ways for publishers to address the opportunity for more SDG-related content in their educational materials and research publications.
Next, we focus on putting the SDGs into practice. The connecting academic researchers and practitioners group is focused on developing best practices that will foster communication and build stronger relationships between research and those who use the research, the practitioners.
Our third group is all about redefining impact. The impact on reach group is focused on changing the traditional way research impact is viewed, specifically looking at academic rankings and incentives.
Our final group focuses on changing the culture in higher education.
Here, our academics, graduate students, and publishers are taking steps to affect culture change throughout the academic and publishing ecosystem.
In 2021, our SDG fellows did multiple presentations about the compact and health program.
The Higher Education Sustainability Initiative is publishing a series of top action lists from the world leaders aimed at various sectors of the industry. Read more about our work in the Moscow Policy Group. This effort is an excellent example of SDG 17, Partnership for the Goal. The signatories committed to 10 broad actions, but without a specific step, key publishers could immediately match their resolve with the presentation. The strategies and practices that the SDG fellows are developing need further engagement of higher education and publishing. In practice, the compact requires aligning on daily practices of content and measures of success to the United Nations SDGs. One sector accelerating progress has been academic publishing. The Higher Education Sustainability Initiative, SDG Fellows, believe that research and education are crucial towards achieving the SDGs by 2030, and we are proud to be doing our part for the UN Decade of Action.
Oke, terima kasih. Aduh, ini jadi input sebentar. Wait. Oke, terima kasih. Dari saya cukup, Bu Ajeng. Jay, as an appreciation from us in Telkom University Faculty of Economics and Business, we would like to give how to say it, a token, like just a simple note from us as a certificate here for you, from us as a thank you notes for sharing the knowledge about SDGs and ChatGPT, and we hope that we would continue the conversation in the future with the students, with the faculties, with the colleagues here in Indonesia. And again, thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
In Indonesia, we say terima kasih banyak. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Ya, oke. So, Bapak Ibu Tete Akang, dengan demikian kita akan menyelesaikan Industrial Expert Week. Saya kembalikan kepada Bu Ajeng.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you very much, Mr. J,
Bye-bye.
for attending here to sharing for us. Dan terima kasih untuk Bu Ratna sudah bersedia menjadi moderator ya, Bu ya. Thank you very much, Mr. J.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Happy weekend.
Yes. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Miss Ratna.
Dah, Bu Rina ditunggu
Baik,
ya.
Bapak Ibu. Mohon izin, kita sudah menginjak di sesi penutupan. Dipersilakan kepada Bapak Ibu untuk mengisi link presensi kehadiran untuk mendapatkan sertifikat. Semoga kita bertemu lagi di Industrial Expert Week semester depan, di semester ganjil 2023-2024. Terima kasih untuk semuanya. Akhir kata dari saya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat malam semuanya. Tur nuhun.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih. Sehat-sehat.
Terima kasih semuanya.
Salam warahmatullahi
Terima kasih semuanya.
Sami-sami Ibu, atur nuhun. Terima
Ya,
kasih.
saya Liv ya.
Mangga
Sehat-sehat
Ibu,
Bu Ratna.
mangga.
Terima kasih semuanya. Happy
Terima kasih, Bu.
weekend.
Thank you Bu
Sehat-sehat
Ajeng.
ya.
Assalamualaikum.
Bye-bye.